like you said, I think, we've definitely been hit with some adversity and, injuries and having to come back in ball games. I think just the kind of tenacity the team has shown in the first 30 games, in terms of the fight, the competitiveness, never being out of a ball game. I think all that's been a real positive. And, we've had, to have whatever it is now, some type of winning streak, and then also to overcome a 5-game losing streak right in the middle of all of it. I think, over the first month, they definitely showed the ability to bounce back. And that's probably the biggest positive we've seen so far.
Yeah, those are all the makeup type things. From a performance type part, what's impressed you the most? Has it been the patience that your offense has shown? Has it been the resiliency of the pen, even though they've taken some hits? What part of you, from a baseball standpoint, enjoyed watching your team actually perform?
Yeah, I think on the offensive end, we've gotten closer to the type of offense that we want to play. So obviously, some of the control of the strike zone, along with the ability to hit the ball out of the park, and also an athletic group that can do some things on the base pass. The starting pitching has been, for the most part, pretty consistent. And I think here over the course of the last 4 or 5 games or so, some of the positive traits we've seen from a bullpen that we believe in. So, I think all of those areas, there's been positives, and I think trying to build on those for the last 30 games. I think the focus has been mostly internal. We like our group and our team, and that's just not just the 28 man on the active roster. I think we've already had moves, and I think thanks to some of the depth we have some guys that are that we feel like are major league caliber players that are over at the alternate site as well. So I think that continues to be the main focus. Obviously, the deadline is here, coming up in the next 6 days or so on the 31st. So, we'll be prepared just to see what else is out there externally that we could potentially add to this club. But the majority of our focus has been internal. The players that are either in the building in Petco right now or over at the alternate site, and other players in the organization that we feel like can help us for the last 30 games.
It seemed like earlier on it was the hope that Mackenzie Gore would help this team more as a starter. Is that still the preference, or are you guys open-minded to him possibly helping out of the bullpen if necessary?
Yeah, I think with Mackenzie specifically, I think, the preference, again, we see him as a starting pitcher. So, I think, ultimately that's where we'd like to see him. In terms of breaking into the major leagues, everyone has a different path. We've seen it differently with, Chris Paddack and Joey Lucchesi came in as starters. Cal Quantrill kind of came in as a hybrid type guy, and more out of the pen and has had the opportunity to start a little bit. Adrian Morihone's kind of gone back and forth. So it just really depends on what the team's need is and what we feel like for that player. I think Mackenzie specifically, he's being developed as a starter, and we'll kind of see what happens here in the next 30 days.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here I go. I'm sorry. Hi, AJ. How energized has Manny Machado been this season versus the version that finished 2019?
I think for Manny, he talked about it in the off season when the year ended that felt like he wanted to come back, and whether it's unfinished business or just didn't like the way the season ended last year. I don't think anybody did really from a team standpoint. And, I don't want to speak for Manny individually, but I know, he talked about that this off season, and I can only speak from really day one of regular spring training into the summer camp. And then definitely here over the course of the season, in the last couple of weeks, he's put the time in, he's worked hard on his game, and, he's, and especially here in the recent time, we've seen a lot of results. So I think he's enjoying the team, enjoying the players he's with, and he's playing really good baseball right now.
And for Chris Paddack's remaining starts, is there any thoughts of keeping him on the extra day's rest, or do you plan to go with a normal 4 days rest for him?
I think honestly, like we haven't mapped out like the exactly what's going to how the last 30 games are going to go. I do think it's one of those things where we kind of go start to start in terms of just how guys come out of starts. How, and not just Chris, like how each starter comes out of it, how taxing each outing was. Again, I think that the idea with him, just big picture wise for this year, is we want our best guys out there every 5 days, and I don't think that mindset has changed. But I think we'll kind of look at the schedule. We have some more off days when we get towards the last couple of weeks, so we'll evaluate that as well. But honestly, I think it's each decision we kind of get done with the week and say, okay, where are we at? How much do we have to use the pen? How are the other starters stacking up? And then we'll make decisions after each guy gets done with a start about whether we want to give an extra day or not. Have had initial conversations with with Ron and with Peter, and it's been most of the conversations so far have been really about where we see the club, and in terms of the areas that things we've done well, areas of potential improvement for the group. Talking a lot about internal options, and though I think the way we're looking at the trade deadline is we're open to any possibility. I think we'll get into this last 5 or 6 days, and when things become more realistic and things that we feel like are something that we could potentially land, then we'll have that conversation about how it impacts us financially, both in the short term and definitely understanding the landscape of where things are going to be at for the future. So I know ultimately with Ron and with Peter, they want to win. They've obviously demonstrated that, whether it's investment in the stadium and the ball club, internationally, the farm system, and clearly at the major league level with some of the free agent investments that you mentioned. So, I think we'll weigh everything out, but I don't think anything will be off the table, and I think we'll have those conversations. If it makes sense for us, then I think we'll go forward with it.
AJ, with the way that your roster's kind of filling out with young, controllable players, and you look at your prospects and the positions they play, don't you feel you're sort of at a time where it's time to start dealing some of those guys?
I mean, I think we've been building here over the course of the last 4 or 5 years to get to a point where we have talent top to bottom at the major league level. I think that's the goal for any organization, and where you have multiples at different spots, and I think that enables you to deal from position of strength. But you don't want to be flippant about it, because we like the players we have. So. And depth depth throughout the organization, depth at each position is a big key. I think especially we're seeing this year with the COVID situation and just some of the injuries with some of the players getting back on the field. You need to have a lot of depth. You need to have a lot of guys, and whether it's in a 60-game season or a 160. So again, I think we've built up those players. You do it for a reason. I think the biggest part is to help our major league team create some competition and help our big league team here in San Diego. Obviously, it gives you some options at the deadline, and I think we've talked about it with the last couple of winter meetings, and definitely the last trade deadline. We've had, some we have options because we have players that teams like. So I don't think that'll. I think that'll probably be the similar case here this deadline. But in terms of you got to like the deal, you got to like the trade, and we feel like we have some depth, but that doesn't mean we're going to look at this deadline and say we have to do something because we may have some multiples of different players. It's got to line up for something that fits for the team and for us, because we like the guys that we have.
¿Cómo está, AJ?
Bien, Enrique. ¿Cómo tú estás? Bien.
Todo muy bien. ¿Qué se siente tener este grupo maravilloso de jóvenes y especialmente poder ver en el campo cada día jugando juntos a Manny Machado y Fernando Tatis?
Y el grupo tiene, buena química, y es un grupo que, el talento está bueno, pero más importante es el make-up que el grupo tiene. Y el grupo encantado jugando en la pelota, y especialmente cuando tú viste un pelotero como Fernando Tatis, que todo el día que está jugando con un sonriso, encanta jugar, tiene el juego en el sangre, y también con Manny, y es un complementario a Tatis. Tatis tiene fuego y Manny está como hielo, y cuando estamos juntos en el mismo play, es una buena combinación.
¿Qué le falta a este equipo, Preller, para meterse en grande? ¿Qué tú quieres agregarle a este equipo la próxima semana?
Depende. Vamos a buscar vamos a buscar en los diferentes áreas. ¿Tú entiendes? Siempre tú estás buscando quizás por un pitcher que puede lanzar encima de una rotación. Y también estamos buscando en el bullpen si hay una persona que puede estar un parte del grupo para ayudar a nosotros. Y también estamos buscando como un bateador veterano que puede estar en parte de nosotros. Pero, si no, me gusta mucho el grupo que tenemos. Pero si es una posibilidad para fortalecer ese grupo, vamos a continuar buscando con eso.